Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last part of our local capacity systems presentation. This is part four. Um, and today we're going to talk about our last service spotlight, and that's our virtual e-procurement, and we call it ePro. The ePro solution is a what I would probably consider a system that is run by our company. So it is you provide input as well as the vendor provides input. And so what you have is you as the NGO uh, provides your information into our e-procurement system. And here we call it the local procurement system, LPS, or LPS/ePro. And then that information then is communicated to the vendor. The vendor replies to that information into the Pro system software, and then it goes to you for your uh, determination on who has the best price and the best service or commodity. And so we are more or less the agent, and we run the e-procurement software. It's also a cloud-based software system, uh, and all of the information is stored onto this system. So we've created this system based on our experience in the field in many countries. And we did a survey of vendors to get a better understanding of how they felt about USAID procurements from NGOs and contractors. And we got a good feeling that they were not so pleased. And the reason was that in many cases, they would put in a bid and would never know uh, if they won the bid or if they lost the bid or whatever happened to that procurement action because they never received any feedback. And so they were disenchanted in many cases. And so many of them, when they received a second or a third request for quotation, they didn't bid at all because they thought that the system was rigged with someone else, and they were just being part of a process with no return. And so it limited the competition more or less because they were not given any type of reason why they didn't win or any results. Um, Also, we in West Africa we had a situation where we were working for an entity, and we received phone calls from vendors that they were not receiving their payments on time, and which was really interesting because for example, myself, I had signed checks and knew the vendor should have been paid, only to find out when I went to the cashier and asked her about the payment, she had not received the checks. And so I had to go to the accounts payable, only to find out that he had the checks still in his drawer and had not dispersed those checks to the cashier, which was the proper procedure. And so I had to explain to him that that was improper, inappropriate, and that he should always give those checks upon my signature to the cashier so the vendor will be paid on time. And then, looking back on it, I realized that he was actually calling the vendor uh, to have the vendor to give him some uh, some kickbacks in order to get the check to him. In East Africa, what we experienced was that on an assignment, we was in the middle of a project implementation, and we went to visit a vendor, a supplier of office materials, and we purchased some items, only to find out that the vendor is giving us cash back. And I couldn't understand why, when we had a purchase order for the items, why was he giving us money? And realized that that was part of the system that was being run in that particular town. And I had to explain to him that I could not take his money and that he should not give money to a procurement officer, as that is an infraction on the procurement officer to accept the money. Um, and so, with that, we really had to develop a system that will prevent these occurrences. One, a system that provides feedback to vendors. Two, making sure that the vendors get paid on time, and if not, they should receive a penalty fee. Uh, and trying to also avoid the close relationship between the procurement officers and vendors. So we found a company in the U.S. that had a, a, a really robust procurement software, and we customized the software to fit within the USAID and best practice of procurement procedures. And we came up with the ePro system. So, what is the Fresh Global ePro system? Again, it is a comprehensive procurement system that starts with the purchase requisition and goes all the way to the payment being dispersed to the vendor. Uh, so it covers the entire procurement cycle. So the service that we offer uh, is basically a cloud-based procurement system. And what we do on the front end, we pre-qualify all of the vendors. We go out in your location and we go out and try to identify all eligible vendors. We do that by advertising in a newspaper, going on the social media, and most importantly, word of mouth. And then these vendors are able to register on our site 24 hours a day. They just go onto the link and they can register. Once they register, then we will go out and pre-qualify them by requesting certain documentation and verifying that they do have a location with the supplies that they are marketing. Now, what the NGO does, the NGO being you, you provides us the solicitation. We put that into our system and transmit that to all applicable vendors. Uh, the vendors submits the bids, and once that deadline has been met, We then collect those bids and put that into a bid analysis form for you to review, along with the past performance of the vendors from other NGOs. And then you select the vendor and send us a purchase order. And then we send that to the vendor. And then the vendor will proceed with that purchase order. So with the vendor receives the online request for quotation proposal. They will bid online. They will go into their account on our site and enter a bid and any supporting documentation. Then they will also receive the purchase order from us online and then deliver the goods or service to you all. They will send us the invoice and a goods receiving note. We will put that into our system and send you a copy of that invoice for you to age. And then upon the due date, you will then transfer the funds to us, and then we will transfer that to the vendor to make sure that it's paid on time. And if it's not, to charge you late fees for that. So it's an online payment system. Uh, and with the VFC, remember, the VFC is connected to the e-procurement system. And so those invoices will come to you through the VFC system. Okay. In addition, we provide a workshop for you explaining the system and what your roles and responsibilities will be, as well as explaining the roles and responsibility to the vendors. But more importantly, for all vendors who are not successful in winning bids, we provide an additional workshop to help them become a little bit more wiser in terms of providing a winning bid so they can also uh, get some of your business. So the system is comprehensive. It has a lot of features and supports the entire procurement cycle. Again, it streamlines the supplier qualification process through them going online, registering, and then we will go through the process of pre-qualifying them so you can have a list of vendors. Also, the bid and award time is shortened because we do a lot of the communication online. This also reduced the bid document distribution costs because everything is online. You don't have to print out, you know, uh, tens or hundreds of documents to submit to uh, your vendors. But more importantly, this system increases supplier or vendors competition because we are looking out for we are looking for as many vendors to participate as possible. If we find during the bidding process that we don't get the three or more vendors, we will notify you and go out and look for more vendors as well. And we try to standardize the procurement process. This is all documented in our system, which gives us a good audit trail where your auditors or anytime that you want to see all of the documentations, it's available and we can easily communicate and document and send that to you. Now let's talk about a little bit more about some of the features that we offer to the NGOs as well as to vendors. Again, we pre-qualify vendors. We continue to search for vendors. We provide you a performance assessment report with the bids. So you know, based on the history of other NGOs, the performance of any of those vendors. And then we work with the vendors to try to give you the best price based on volume, because the vendors will understand that we are working with a cadre of NGOs and not one NGO. For the vendors, again, self-service registration. Uh, we're going to increase their exposure to USAID procurements, uh, and we train them on procurement regulations, and we provide feedback on their bids. Some other features for the NGO is, again, this automated bid tabulation report that lists all of the vendors' bids and any stipulations. The reduction or the bid distribution cost, as I explained earlier. The pre-bid response tracking, we can tell you how many bids your particular solicitation has generated over a period of time. Uh, Messaging by email. We want everything to be documented as much as possible. And we have a messenger delivery tracking system where we can track the emails. In terms of vendors, we emphasize that the process should be transparent, and we try to eliminate as many corrupt practices and commissions. Anytime a vendor is approached by a procurement person, we encourage them to notify us, because we want to make the process as transparent as possible. We also assure the vendor of timely payments, and if payments are not timely, late fee will be a charge. And we want to ensure them that if they participate in this procurement system, we're going to make sure that it increases their sales and profits as well. So the e-procurement cycle, once again, this procurement system allows for rapid identification of vendors with the relevant qualifications to provide the required products and services. The system allows for swift requests for proposals or quotations through, through via the internet. Again, we use online bidding. The vendors do the bidding and they submit the bidding and any supporting documentation. Again, from there, we do a bid analysis report and send it to you with all the information you need to make a decision. And the successful vendor receives the purchase orders electronically and very fast. Uh, and then the goods receiving report, invoices and payments, all done seamlessly in our system. So it's well documented. Uh, and I think this is something that many auditors, as well as donors, would like to see when it comes to procurement. Here is a page of our website to our vendors, where they can easily register. This other uh, icon here is for them to sign in. And this is up on our site 24 hours a day for the vendors to access. So how can the fresh e-procurement help you? Well, it allows you to receive more bids. It increases competition at a lower cost and savings to your project. And it's effective and efficient in terms of procurement operations. As we have pre-qualified a lot of vendors, that process is eliminated. So that's going to save you some time. Also, we work with many NGOs on their procurement plans. And once you have a procurement plan, we will work with you to make sure you implement that plan in a timely fashion. This system is affordable. We charge you a monthly subscription fee uh, for the use of the system. Uh, and really what it is, you are working with a team of procurement professionals to make sure that it's transparent and efficient as possible. The system is secure, cloud-based. This company has been doing this for a very long time, and we can provide you support at any point in time with um, being on a committee or providing more questions to the vendor. We can help you with that process. Okay. So questions. This is a recorded presentation. And so all questions should be sent to info@ufresh-global.com. You can send questions on any of the presentations to this email address, and we'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions, as well as if you are interested in signing up, you can also send an email to this address as well. Uh, and with your participation of going through all four of these presentations, we want to provide a few free offers. Uh, if you are an NGO that is not currently receiving donor funding, we can provide you the virtual financial controller and the ePro system uh, free at this particular point, so you can get used to operating and working with it. If you don't have donor funding and you're just waiting, so we can get you set up and ready to go once you do receive donor funding. The second offer is those NGOs receiving donor funding, we can give you a free month subscription of our services, uh, of all of our services, free for 1 month to get you set up and started. And I'm sure that the donor will be very impressed that you come up with some systems that will solidify your ability to avoid audit findings at the end of the project. And they will be impressed with that. So once again, I want to thank you for attending our presentations. You can reach Kamal Walicha with any questions or comments. That's his email address. And you can also visit our website or find us on LinkedIn. Again, I want to thank you all for your time. We look forward to working with you and growing with you. Thank you, and have a nice day to you all. Bye-bye.